Let's talk about the meters in HiFAL. One thing to keep in mind is that the way that we see things oftentimes overrides the way that we hear things. This is called the McGurk effect. What this means is that when we're looking at a gain reduction meter, it can inform us and make us make decisions over what we're hearing. And obviously that's not ideal as a mixing or mastering engineer. When we were developing HiFAL, we were using a very big gain reduction meter that had a very dominant look to it. And what it would do is force me to do less gain reduction than what I would do when I was working on the hardware version of this processor. So what I decided to do was make the gain reduction meter have a minimum amount of information. You'll notice that there's no maximum gain reduction readout because that information is not that relevant in a situation where we're doing acceleration limiting, because acceleration limiting is going to be jumping in and doing aggressive limiting and then backing out of the way. It's so fast that the maximum number is a little bit irrelevant. Now I'm just sending a simple sine wave into HiFAL because I want to show you the continuous illumination gain reduction bulbs. What's happening here is the 0 dB bulb is showing us gain reduction between 0 and 1 dB. So as I push this sine wave up, we're gonna see that bulb get brighter and brighter. And as that bulb reaches full illumination, that means it's doing 1 dB of gain reduction. Generally, like I said in the previous video, you're gonna wanna have the bulb kind of pulse in this 0 dB state for majority of the song. That's when the acceleration limiting is slow and letting all of the transients live. Then you'll see moments where it'll jump down and give you really quick acceleration limiting. And if you don't see gain reduction like that, that's not a bad thing. That just means that there aren't a lot of high frequency spikes in your mix. And that doesn't mean that I would necessarily turn off HiFAL, because HiFAL is sitting there as almost like a protection circuit, just catching things that don't need to jump out. They can really transparently be controlled and reduced. Now, if I had this bulb pulsing throughout the mix at about 0.8 dB, where this first bulb is kind of continuously lit, and it's just pulsing at us, what I may do is give us a little bit of positive gain on the trim knob to compensate for that very slow attenuation that's happening to the high frequencies. Another thing to think about with this gain reduction meter is that it is showing you gain reduction, how it's affecting the audio, but it's also showing you the speed of the acceleration limiting. Because the acceleration limiting is constantly getting faster as it does more gain reduction, this first light is doing very slow gain reduction, and this last light is doing very fast gain reduction. The goal for me when I'm setting up HiFAL is to use both the slow attack and release of the low amounts of gain reduction, and then the fast attack and release with the high amounts of gain reduction. I don't want the meters to be pinned the whole time, because then I'm just using the fast attack and fast release, and I'm not getting the full breadth of the acceleration limiting. Now let's talk about the gain reduction monitor, or the delta at the bottom of the meter. One thing to keep in mind is when I turn on this delta, it mutes the parallel limiter because we don't want to hear that static contribution to the mix. If we wanted to hear that, we can just use this solo button over here. So when using the gain reduction monitor, the main thing that I'm listening for is the channel linking. The channel linking is going to determine how independent the gain reduction is between the channel 1 and channel 2, or left and right, or M and S. But what happens in the high frequencies in a mix oftentimes is very wide stereo information. If the high frequency acceleration limiter is doing aggressive gain reduction on those channels, technically it's changing the stereo imaging. In some situations, that's okay. It can be very transparent. In other situations, it can be a little bit over the top, and it can be augmenting the stereo image too much. So what I like to do is monitor the gain reduction and then move the channel linking knob to see how it's affecting the stereo imaging. Let's listen. This is a wide change to the image, and then this is a linked change to the image. Let's go back to wide, and then I'll start to vary it. You can hear it bouncing a little bit in the left and right speakers. Obviously, it's more audible if you're listening on headphones or speakers that are set up in a stereo fashion. Let's hear how it sounds in context, unlinked. When we hear the gain reduction monitoring aggressively in the left and right channels like this is the threat of monitoring in solo. I don't really like to monitor in solo. I don't really even care too much what the gain reduction sounds like in solo, but sometimes it's important to see how you're affecting the stereo imaging. And this is the most simple way to do it. Let's listen now to what it sounds like in the context of the song, which is the most important thing to listen to at all times. We all know that. So this is a very aggressive, SE and bright song. Let's listen to it now with it toggling HiFAL on and off. I would argue that it sounds a little more expensive, it sounds a little more refined, and a little bit more controlled. I'm using about 33% linking between full stereo and linked average, and that's controlling enough of the stereo image, but also letting the processor be somewhat independent. That's it for now. Until next time.